إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We're in lesson 2. I got all these chords. We're in lesson 2 in Tuhfatul Atfal. It's the text dealing with Tajweed. And we're having our first quiz. It starts off, it says, what is the name of the author of the text? What is the name of the author? Who can tell me? Sulaiman what? Jamzuri. His name is Sulaiman Jamzuri. That is correct. Sulaiman al-Jamzuri. And we could write it the way it sounds, or we can do whatever. So, what is the title of the text?
There's the title.
No us. سميته بتحفة
Atfal.
Right. So the name of this text is, we can, Tuhfa Atfali. Okay? Or, the people write Tuhfa Al-Atfal. And Atfal is the plural of tifl. A tifl is a baby. What is intended by this title? Tuhfa Atfal. Tuhfatul Atfal. What's intended by this?
This is starting.
For the beginner. A tuhfa is something nice. Tuhfa is something nice or a gift. Right? Something nice or a gift for the students, for the babies. The babies in what? The babies in the science of. So that goes to the next question. What's the subject of the text? Tajweed, right? The subject is Tajweed. Okay, then we say, where is the author from?
Al-Jamzuri.
He's from Al-Jamzur, that's the village. Give me, sorry, Tanta, okay. Tanta. Okay, but where is Tanta? It's in Egypt. No, it's not in Cairo. Everybody gets Cairo or Qahira mixed up with Egypt. Qahira is a city inside of Egypt. Okay? So it's a huge city, if not one of the largest cities in the world. But it's a city inside of Egypt. Okay? So we get that clear. All right, and we didn't get a fifth question this week because the text was real short that I gave you guys, and we wanted to get on to the next part of our lesson. And the next part of our lesson is the madbadi. You have to hit restart. I'm asking.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, let's get started.
But it's not coming up on projector.
Okay, well, you have to hit restart then. Yeah, I think so. That's what I used to see Makeen do, inshallah. All right, and if not, don't worry about it. We'll just put it up there and I'll use it and I'll write on the board. What do you want to do?
You mean what you've written?
Yeah. Okay. Quiz number 1. We have it finished. Everybody has those answers on the board? You had some different answers?
No,
Okay, we'll get them later. Everybody else got it? Okay, well, I'm Jamzuri, Tanta. Make sure you keep this. I'm going to want to see your papers a little while later to make sure that you got all the information, the proper information recorded. Now you take out another piece of paper. And it's very important that you get all the proper information written and recorded in your book. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you, I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to place 10 questions. We were going to have it on the board, but I don't know how to work the computer.
It's supposed to be removed.
Oh, you did it?
The computer is supposed to be restarted.
Did you hit restart? Okay. Okay, well maybe we'll get something. The first thing that I want to ask you guys, get to a clear piece of paper. There is 10 things in every science that you have to know before you study it. 10 things. You don't have to take out the piece of paper. Just have it ready. 10 things. The first one is the name and a definition of the science. Ismun wa hadd. You have to know the name of the science and the definition of the science. The next thing that you have to have. Did it boot up? You ready? Okay, the next thing you have to have is the mawdu'. What is the subject matter of that subject? What is the subject matter? Who was the first person to begin this science? And what's the benefit that that science has? What are the fruits or the benefit? Yeah, well, I just said that already. To say the benefits. What other sciences is it related to? And what's its rating? What's its fadl? Its nobility in regard, or its nobility regarding other sciences. Okay? Then we need to know the hukum, the Islamic ruling on the science and the issues that it deals with. Okay? And then, of course, we need to know the istimdad. What are the things that it makes up this science? So, let's get those things on the board. If they don't have it ready, I'm going to put them on my board anyway. Okay? You guys ready? It should be under, I don't know. Let me see. Okay.
Okay, look, it's the train.
Okay.
Want me to turn it on?
Yeah, put it on the board. And I'll get it up. Okay. Definitely McKean is better than us.
On the back of the bed, those things they go up and down. See, it's a button, and this one
Oh.
goes down. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, pick it up, pick the whole thing up, and then just push the button.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Tajweed.
Because
Oh, okay.
so once you release the
There it
button,
goes.
it will stay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, now if you could just put that, fix that up,
Yeah.
then it's good. We're good. No, seriously. Alhamdulillah. One of the things that we can do all the time in Tajweed class is we can recite. Just as a point, Tajweed is a science, while we're waiting for them, the technical difficulties that we're having, Tajweed is a science that its study is not disconnected to its application. Here, have it. What do I mean by that? You can't study Tajweed from a distance. I can study certain sciences from a distance. And then as I go to apply them, I learn other things, right, about that science. Tajweed is not like that. Tajweed is a science that as you study it, you have to start its application to understand what you're actually studying. And unless you do that, you will never achieve true Tajweed, and you will never really know if you know what you're talking about or if you know what you're actually saying. So, just to reiterate, you have to study the Tajweed along with its practice. For that reason, the ulama of the past have always said that the only way you're going to get to Tajweed is through exercising your jaw, right? Practicing with your mouthpiece, moving it up and down and going around like this. So the first line that everyone has to learn is أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. And this statement, the way I recited it right there, is called tahqiq. There's different ways of reciting. 4 different ways of reciting, to be exact. The one that you do in class when you're learning tajweed is called tahqiq. Tartil is a little bit different. I don't want to get into it right now because it's not the subject of today's lesson. But one of the rules that I want everyone to learn first day out is that we start with the isti'adha. We start with saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. However, in order to do that, you have to do it in one breath. There is no breathing in between the recitation. Okay? So you can't say, A'udhu billahi mina. You hear that? Or, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. You hear that? That's all incorrect. It has to come, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You understand? One breath. And that's how we're going to practice it. So get over your shyness, because this is something that's going to keep you. During this class, you will be called to recite. And you have to recite in a clear voice that is loud to be, intelligible. Mumbling does not count. Okay? Now, 10 fundamentals. Before we can jump right into recitation, we have to learn these 10 fundamentals. Let's go down. Someone scroll for me, please. Could you scroll down, please? Okay, that's a little bit too much. Okay, why don't I get somebody else to scroll down? Okay, here we go. Good enough right there. Let's stop right there. Shukran jazeelan. Jazakallah khair. I'm just messing with you, Mirsad. It says, the basics of every science are 10. That means there are 10 things, fundamental things, basic things that everybody must know before you start studying this subject. They're simple, common sense things. The first and the second is the definition and name of the subject that you're studying. Third and fourth are what is the subject matter? What subject is it? No, that's the typo. What is the subject matter? Okay? The next one is, what is the benefit of that subject? What is its nobility next to other sciences? What sciences or subjects is it related to? Who started it and what tools must we use? Because there are some prerequisites that you use. In every science that you deal with, you have your hammer and your nail. These are tools that you use in building, right? Who started and what tools will we use? What issues does it deal with? And what is the legal ruling regarding it? So let's deal with those questions right off the bat, and we'll have a quiz at the end of the class, okay? Roll down again, please, ma'am. The first and second. Okay, the first and second is the definition and name. Tajweed. Tajweed is the name. Tajweed is from the word jawwada, meaning to perfect something, to do something in a beautiful manner without losing its technical properties. What does that mean? Okay, first, this is said regarding speech and actions. This is the linguistic meaning. The Arabs, when they said something was jayyid or something you did some tajweedan, they didn't necessarily originally mean by that qira'atul Qur'an, recitation of the Qur'an. But this was something like in the Chinese language, they say good kung fu, right? They say good kung fu. And kung fu didn't mean fighting. Kung fu meant that whatever you did it good. Whether it was cooking, whether it was architecture, whatever you did, good kung fu. You perfected it. You didn't lose nothing. And in fact, you did it in such a beautiful, artistic manner. This is the original meaning of tajweed, and it still plays a large role in what we mean when we say tajweed. As a term, tajweed is to give the proper recitation, I'm giving you a general because this is a beginner's class. The proper recitation of the Qur'an. What does that mean? That means the smallest part of the Qur'an is what? The letters. The harf. So that is for you to recite each letter, each haraka, harf, letter and what do you call it, vowel, the way it's supposed to. And if you paid attention to that, then that would make the words sound perfect. And not just to do that, then to beautify that. To beautify your presentation of that recitation. Does that make sense? That is Tajweed. And the study of Tajweed is to get you to do that naturally. Without a whole bunch of mukallafun, without a whole bunch of, sina'a. What is that? People that they go too far with it, and it's plastic, it's artificial. Okay? It's instead of being crafted, it's more of a production with a factorization, like a factory. Okay? And we don't want that. We want a performance, a presentation, a beautiful presentation. And that's done through constant work. Okay? Going down, please. And I don't mean to beleaguer the points. The second, the third, and fourth are, what is its subject matter and what is its benefit? What is the subject matter of Tajweed? Its subject matter are the words of the Qur'an with regards to perfecting their pronunciation and beautifying their presentation. This is what the subject matter is. When we talk about the subject matter, what are we dealing with? When we deal with Qur'an, when we deal with Tajweed, we're dealing with literally just the words in the Qur'an. That's what we're going to be attacking, what we're going after, what we're going to be analyzing, what we're going to be reciting, the words of the Qur'an. So we don't have to go look for this and that. The Qur'an is here. We can look at it, but now we're going to look at it with an eye to what? Perfecting their pronunciation, the pronunciation of those words, and beautifying our presentation of those words. This is what we're going to be doing here, inshallah. Some of the benefits. What's the benefit of learning Tajweed? Some of its benefits are that it protects the speech of Allah from being recited incorrectly. Let's stop for that for a second. What is the Qur'an? The Qur'an is the speech of Allah and it's not created. Right? This is the speech of Allah. So, for us to recite the Qur'an the way that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited the Qur'an, we know the letters and the words are all preserved in written form. And it's preserved in the chests of men. How are we going to extract that? We extract that from listening to it and reciting it the way the Prophet ﷺ recited it. So we get to recite and protect the recitation the way it was recited by the Prophet ﷺ, or by the way he allowed his companions to recite it. Right? This is one of the benefits. So you recite wahy, you're reciting revelation from Allah the way it was revealed, without taking away from anything and without giving something that doesn't belong there. Okay, so that's one of the benefits. It protects the speech of Allah from being recited incorrectly. So the benefit of this science is that it clarifies to the student how the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself used to recite the Qur'an and allow it to be recited by his companions. For this reason, it is considered to be one of the sciences of tafsir. Why is it considered? How could Tajweed be considered a science of Tajweed, of tafsir? What is tafsir? Tafsir is the science through which we recognize and understand what the Qur'an means. When you recite the words correctly, you've broken them up. So now we know that this was an as opposed to an. That's some clarification, tibyan. It clarifies what is actually there. Knowing the words is the first thing you need to know in a tafsir. So hearing them recited correctly is considered one of the first forms and levels of tafsir. Do you understand that? Okay. Let's go on. If I have any questions, stop me at that point if you don't understand the point. Because I'm going to ask you this. Someone's going to come to you maybe and say, you're studying Tajweed? What is Tajweed? What's the benefit of studying Tajweed? And you don't have to make it up. You don't have to think whole deeply about it. You've got the answers. So if you don't understand them, and there are more to this than that, but this is basic. Don't try to be, over eloquent and talk in manners that, are beyond the subject. Deal with it real basic. And then we move on. 5. What is its nobility next to the other sciences? It is considered to be one of the most noble sciences due to the statement of Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said what could mean, the best of you are those who learn the Qur'an and teach it. خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه or خياركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. And this is a famous hadith. And it says, the best of you, or the most choicest ones of you, are those who learn the Qur'an and teach it. So that tells you that its nobility next to the other sciences. The best of those are those who learn the Qur'an and teach it. What is learning the Qur'an if it's not learning how to recite it first? Learning how it's supposed to be said. How can you say you know a thing if you don't even know how to recite it? You can't even read it and recite it properly. Then you do not know it. You don't know anything about it. Maybe you know the cover, what it looks like, but can you read it? Okay? So, the best of those are those who do that. And this is in these numbers here represent where that can be found in an authentic hadith books. So, collections, I should say. This nobility is also due to its attachment to the most noble book, the Qur'an, and the most noble messenger, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. 6. What sciences or subjects is it related to? Or is it related to? Tajweed is related to the sciences of Arabic, Qira'ah, and Tafsir. Let's talk about that for a second. How is Tajweed tied to the sciences of Arabic? Can anybody understand that? Or give me a reason how we can say Tajweed is tied to the sciences of Arabic, or one of the sciences of Arabic. To be exact, it's tied to the science of Sarf. Sarf is what? The etymology, the breaking down of a word. Right? Giving the history of a word. The word is built upon its letters. So it's tied to the science of Tajweed in that, it's science of Arabic in that Arabic deals with the letters. So if you learn the first thing you learn in Arabic is the letters. So if you learned how to recite the letters properly, what you learned is Tajweed. How to give the letters its rights, right? That's one. How is it tied to Qira'ah? Does everybody know what Qira'ah is? It's right. It's the science of reciting the Qur'an in one of the 7 modes, or some of the ulama say the 7 modes don't actually exist anymore, but there are 7 modes that are recited. By Ibn Mujahid, he put it in a book. He was the first one to gather them in one book and call them the Qira'at al-Sab'a, the 7 Qira'at. And even though he was blamed for that, because there were more than that around at the time, those are the ones that have stuck. And so those are the ones that are considered classical, and those others, besides those 7, are considered shadh. Right? So that science through which you study how to recite. For example, when we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. That is the qira'ah of Warsh. If we do it in Hafs, we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Did you hear the difference? One said, Maliki Yawmiddin, and the other one said, Maliki Yawmiddin. This difference is what is studied in the science of Qira'ah. The different ways the Qur'an was revealed and the different ways that it is allowed to be recited. For this reason, originally, Tajweed was tied to Qira'ah, and it was one of the sub-sciences studied when you studied Qira'ah. Over time, it became mustaqillah, it became its own science, came into its own right, where it was studied away from the science of Qira'ah. Hatta, even today, most people don't even study Qira'ah. Most people now don't even study Qira'ah. If you recite in Warsh or you recite in Duri or Susi or one of the known authentic classical ways of reciting Hamza, people might want to beat you. They think that you've broken up and made your own qira'ah. I've even been accused of that before, because they don't know. Did you know you could say, Zirata alladhina an'amta alayhim? I didn't make a mistake. I said zirata as opposed to sirat. This is authentic. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim. That's allowed. That's another recitation as opposed to alayhim. Alayhim wa alayhum. These are different recitations. You just can't do it by yourself. You have to study the science of qira'ah. And in that you would learn the rules when you can do one and when you can do the other. Don't just start praying and say, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهُمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. No, that's wrong. Unless you know how to bring it from the beginning to the end. Okay, and knowledge precedes words and deeds. But that's the science of qira'ah. Okay? Here, it's also tied to tafsir. We spoke about that previously. How by distinguishing the sounds and the words and making clear to the people which word, what we're actually saying, this is the first level, the first leaf in lifting off the cover of tafsir, which is explanation and elucidation of the meaning of the Qur'an. Right? Let's go further, please. Do I have any questions? No. 7 and 8. Who started it? And what tools must we use? It is said that the scholars of Qira'ah started it. We've made it real general. Why? Because this is a beginner lesson. We can go into and give a longer explanation about Hafs and different, and about Ali ibn Abi Talib and about the Prophet ﷺ. But it's enough. We're not, right here at this level, we have to just keep it simple. Keep it very simple. And learn what you can take at the beginning level. Once you get accustomed to it, then we can go and review this again, and then get a little bit deeper, and then get a little bit deeper, and get a little bit deeper. But right now, it's enough for us to know that it was started by the scholars of Qira'ah. What do we mean by that? We mean by that originally, Tajweed was studied amongst the sciences of Qira'ah, when you learned the Qur'an. And when you learned the Qur'an, you just didn't learn Hafs and Asim. You learned all of the ways of reciting the Qur'an. And in that is the tajweed of the Qur'an. Then, meaning they organized, when we say who started it, we mean who organized its rules and principles and said, okay, this is tajweed and this is qira'ah. Who separated them? It became separated during the time frame starting from 118 after Hijrah. That's very early. That's very early after Hijrah. The first 100 years, now you're in the 118. During that time frame, up to the 229 Hijrah, that was the time frame from the beginning to the end until it became, when I say during that time frame, it started to become its own science. People were starting to write books about tajweed, not connected to qira'ah, not connected to Arabiya, not connected to tafsir. That started in 118 after Hijrah. And then by the time it came to 229 Hijrah, it was clear to many people that, hey, I'm just going to study Tajweed and I'm not going to study Qira'ah. You understand? So that's what I mean by that time frame. That during that time frame, it started to become on its own, and by 229 Hijrah, it was on its own. Okay? So, we mentioned this here because prior to this time, the science of Tajweed was connected to other sciences. The sciences of Sarf, the science of Qira'ah and Tafsir. Then during this time frame, it separated and became a study on its own, not directly connected to a study in those other fields. That's what we want to understand here. Memorizing someone's name exactly is of no benefit. We just drop in names, and people aren't going to know who those people are anyway. Right? So there's no real benefit. Then you have to give a biography about that. And then no, it's simple enough to understand that from 118 to 229 Hijrah, Tajweed took off on its own and separated from those other sciences. You understand that, young man? Okay. In order to study Tajweed, now we said what tools must we use? Now we're going to deal with the tools. Does everybody understand when I say what tools we need? right? What tools does a tailor use? He uses a sewing machine. He uses a needle and a thread. He uses a string measure, right? And he measures twice, and he uses scissors. Those are his tools. If you want to be a tailor, you better get used to those tools before you get to the cloth. You have to know how to use the scissors first. You have to know how to eye that needle. If a carpenter, he has to get that hammer in his hand and that screwdriver and everything, get his pants, jeans on and over everything. So, for Tajweed, you're going to use certain things. In order to study Tajweed, one needs to have some knowledge of Qira'ah. Now everybody says, well, I don't have any knowledge of Qira'ah. You do. You do by doing it. You've been doing it your whole life. You've been doing it your whole life as a Muslim. That there are certain things that you've picked up even though you don't know the name of those things. In the study of Tajweed, we'll break it down and show you what that actually is. You see what I'm talking about? So, that's one thing. Anatomy. One says, hey, I'm not taking a medical course. Why do I need to know anatomy? You do. You do need to know certain things. The upper part of your mouth, the bottom of your throat, you know, the grinders and the sharp teeth. I'm just being very basic. These things you're going to need to know. Everybody will know these things. It's not that you have to get technical and know all these technical terms, but you're going to have to become more familiar with the workings of your mouth and your nose. When you hold air in your nose. Okay? And how you put your lips together. And how you don't put them together, but you put them close. These things are covered under anatomy. And whenever you see in the books of Tajweed, they have pictures, diagrams, like it's a medical school, of the whole mouth going down the throat. Right? So there's familiarity in those things. Then Arabic. If you can't read, some people in Mauritania, people learn how to recite the Qur'an from beginning to end, and they never know how to read. But are they experts in Tajweed? No. They can't tell you, or not some of them can. Some people, they can't tell you what the rule is. But they just know this is how we recite it. Is that having knowledge of Tajweed? To a certain degree, yes. That's taqleed. You know it and you go up. But you can't explain it. You can just do it. And you can hear it and say it's done this way. That's one level of knowledge. That's not what we do nowadays, especially not in America. Show me. I need to read it for myself so I can become confirmed and more confident in this whole issue. So if you don't know how to read Arabic, it's going to be a very difficult thing for you to learn Tajweed here. Okay? All those transliterations that we've had for the last 20 years, 30 years, they've done no good to us. They've done a lot of harm. I mean, initially people said, I'm going to start off with this transliteration, you know, the books with the writing and the Arabic. And then 20, 30 years later, they're still using that. It's a crutch. Now it's made the legs so small you can't stand on it. You understand? So we leave those alone and we struggle. Our problem is this pride, this arrogance, that we don't want anyone to hear us making mistakes. We don't want anybody to hear our voice cracking and doing these types of things. Or we don't want everybody to see how little we know. So we don't go anywhere. And this has been holding us up so much so that now we're losing the respect of our youth. Okay? So we got to get past that. And it's not hard to get past that. It just takes some consistency. Couple of weeks of consistency, and we'll be through this. Going on to the next stage. Inshallah. And again, like with anything, the more you do it, the better you become at it. The rules of Tajweed don't change. Okay? So once we learn them, we can keep practicing the same rules over and over again. You read the Qur'an every day. You hear it all the time. At least now you know what you'll be listening to. Okay? And when you're listening to good recitation and when you're listening to mistakes. Okay? Because the point with Tajweed is to make you uncomfortable with the mistakes. So then, in order to study Tajweed, one needs to have some knowledge of Qira'ah, anatomy, and Arabic. Some of the utensils used in teaching Tajweed nowadays include listening to CDs of classical qadis reciting so the student gets accustomed to hearing the proper way of reciting. Okay. Nowadays, it's much easier to learn Tajweed because it used to be we would wait in the masjid for the sheikh to come or the ustad to come, and between him going shopping for his family or going to go do some work, we try to get a lesson in. Okay? Nowadays, we don't got to wait for him. We got the CD. And we sit down and we plug it in and we listen to it 100 times all day, so that when he comes, we can recite it. We may not do it perfect, but we've gotten accustomed to what we have to say and how it has to go, even following the rhythm and the rhyme of the recitation of the Qur'an. And now he can come and with a little bit of time, straighten it out for us. And then when he's gone, we can still now, with his straightening out, listen again with a newer ear to how it's supposed to be done. It only works though if you open your mouth and recite while you're listening. Turn it down a little bit and you raise your voice up with it and recite with it. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. And this will help you in your recitation. Blasting it loud sometimes doesn't help you recite with it, but you turn it down so you can recite along with it, and that is what's going to help you in your recitation of the Qur'an, inshallah. What issues does it deal with? Tajweed deals with issues like idhar and idgham, terms that we'll learn about through study. I don't want to define them here. Okay? When we talk about what the issues that it deals with issues tied to the letters. Idhar is a type of letter. It's a letter that when you hear it, you recite it clearly. Okay? Idgham is dakhala shay fi shay. It's to enter something on something else. But we won't understand the reality of that until we get to the letters. But these are some of the things, of the issues that it deals with. It deals with these issues of the letters. So we'll learn about that later. It deals with things like abghi hajjaka wa khaffa aqima. These are the letters of alamu qamariya. So this type of thing we're talking about here, we'll have to deal with it as we get to it. These are letters abghi hajjaka, alif and bat and jim, hat and ghain, jim, kaf. These are letters of qamariya. What that actually means, we'll have to learn through study. Okay, but that's what it deals with. These are rules of Tajweed, how to recite those individual letters. Next, what is the legal ruling regarding studying Tajweed? This is very important. Okay, it says the legal ruling concerning studying Tajweed is that it is fard kifaya. What does that mean? Fardu kifaya here means that it is not an obligation on everyone to study. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. To study the science of Tajweed, meaning that everybody doesn't have to become an expert at teaching and being, a scholar in Tajweed. However, this is a tricky statement. Anyone who opens his mouth to recite Qur'an has to recite with Tajweed. وَالْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمٌ مَنْ لَمْ يُجَوِّدِ الْقُرْآنَ آثِمٌ. Reciting the Qur'an with Tajweed, hatmul lazimun, is wajib, is obligation on anyone who opens his mouth to recite it. Why? Because that's how Allah revealed it. That's how Allah revealed it, so you have to recite it the way it was revealed. So whoever endeavors to recite anything out of the Qur'an, even one word, has to recite it with Tajweed. Otherwise, are you playing with the Qur'an? Are you playing with the speech of Allah? Did Allah say it like that? Or did Allah send his messengers down to say it like what? The way it was taught. The way it was sent down. So we have to recite the Qur'an the way it was revealed. Why? Because it's the speech of Allah and it's not created. Because Allah sent it down in a certain way. And we have to recite it in that particular way. This, walhamdulillah. Do I have any questions? People recite incorrectly generally because they don't know any better. A lot of people have learned how to recite from listening and not from learning. It's the same reason when people, when they're reading the salah, they say Allahu, and they don't say Allahu Akbar. Not in the ruku, they shouldn't say Allahu Akbar. But let's say any movement, they say Allahu Ak, and they don't say anything else. You hear this a lot of times. Instead of saying Allahu Akbar. They heard somebody, I asked a guy one time, I said, wait man, what you doing, man? Why you say Allahu Ak? Oh, I heard this. You don't make, that's the ugly taqleed. That's the blind following that is blameworthy. Taqleed that is not blameworthy is when you go to a teacher and he teaches you something, you don't necessarily know why he told you that, but you going through it like that, and this is your teacher from your sheikh, from your village or your hood, and so they're teaching you, you're going up, then you say, okay, you can take that. Somebody else come and tell you something, well, you don't know them that well, so you're not going to leave that thing that you learned from someone who you do know. But just to look at somebody and follow them, and you don't know, is that person a scholar? Is that person a knowledgeable person that knows that thing? Should I take them? No, you ask. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people who study, ask the people who know. Don't just follow them. So people make mistakes generally, ala tul, all the time, because they don't know any better.
In Al-Baqarah, he said, خَاتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ.
Listen, we're not going to beat up any particular person, okay? But people make mistakes because they don't know better. And the more you know, see, it's all our fault. The more people that know Tajweed, then people can help and correct. When you know someone is making a mistake, and you have to develop a relationship with that person. Because I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care. So at first you have to let me know that you care about me, and then I can say, okay, I trust you. Right? But this is New York. People come up and say, yo, man, you wrong. You say, no, man, I ain't wrong. You wrong. What's the matter with you? And that's an argument, as opposed to a conversation where we can get some benefit out of. So we have to be real adroit, real skillful in our approach to people, because sadly, a lot of us got our feelings on our shoulder, on our arms. We just really sensitive, super sensitive. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "La tahassabu." Don't be super sensitive. La tahassasu. I'm sorry. Astaghfirullah al-azim. Don't be so super sensitive. So we want to try to learn so that we can benefit our brothers. Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimahullah, he said the niyyah, if you want to perfect your intention, make your intention for talabul ilm to raise up jahl, ignorance, off myself and those around me. And that is a good and a clean, inshallah, niyyah. So let's make our niyyah to raise off ignorance from ourselves and from those around us. You wanted to say something? Okay, do I have any other question? Did I answer your question, sir? Okay, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah. Okay, yeah?
You have 10, right? But 9.
No, 10.
Oh, yeah,
10.
ten.
Okay. All right, take out your pens. We're going to have a quick quiz. No, it's time for the salah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.